Governor Gavin Newsom's green energy agenda has spectacularly backfired, and the consequences are about to shake the entire American economy. It's not just the millions of residents abandoning his failing state. In a matter of weeks, California will face a completely self-inflicted disaster that one of the world's largest corporations saw coming from a mile away. They warned the feckless governor. They warned the equally incompetent legislature. And when nobody listened, this global giant packed up and left California for good. What we're about to witness is a tale of two Americas: a thriving red state economy leading the nation forward, and a crumbling blue state economy slowly disintegrating into dust. Chevron stands as one of the world's largest multinational energy corporations, commanding a market capitalization of approximately $300 billion. The company ranks among the top 5 oil and gas giants globally, alongside industry titans like ExxonMobil, Saudi Aramco, Shell, and BP. Its operations span continents. Its supply chains stretch across the globe, and its investment decisions shape entire regional economies. Founded in San Francisco back in 1879, Chevron has been a cornerstone of California's industrial landscape for over a century and 4 decades, helping build the state's energy infrastructure, fueling its growth, and providing tens of thousands of high-paying jobs over generations. That historic relationship just came to an abrupt end. Just months ago, Chevron announced they were relocating their headquarters to Houston, Texas, leaving many to ask the obvious question: why would a company abandon the state that's been home for more than 140 years? Their CEO, Mike Wirth, didn't mince words. California has become impossible to operate in. Gavin Newsom's California is a disaster zone for business, one defined by unpredictability and ideological hostility rather than economic reality. The state has simply become too difficult, too hostile, too expensive for companies to function effectively. The taxes crush profitability. The regulations strangle innovation, permitting delays stretch on for years. Lawsuits loom constantly. Everything is utterly out of control. The situation has deteriorated so severely that Chevron can't even pay their 6-figure engineers enough to make living in California worthwhile anymore. Housing costs, taxes, commuting times, and quality of life decline have erased the value of even elite salaries. Think about that for a moment. When a global energy giant can't compensate highly skilled professionals enough to offset the misery of living in a state, something has gone catastrophically wrong. Chevron isn't alone in its exodus from the Golden State. Valero, a company that supplies a substantial portion of California's fuel, has also announced their departure, sending shockwaves through the state's already fragile energy system. They plan to close their Benicia refinery by April 2026, a decision economists warn will devastate the state's gasoline supply and permanently tighten fuel markets. If you thought gas prices were astronomical in California, now just wait until the summer of next year. The city of Benicia alone stands to lose 20% of its entire municipal budget, a fiscal gut punch that will ripple through public services, schools, and infrastructure. The state government has become so desperate about skyrocketing gas prices that officials actually offered to subsidize Valero to offset the high cost of doing business in California. But Valero executives essentially told them to forget it. They had zero interest in partnering with the environmental extremists running Sacramento. In fact, Valero is willing to absorb a $1 billion loss just to escape California by April. The company refuses to comply with Gavin Newsom's environmental mandates and green energy requirements, and they're prepared to lose $1 billion for that freedom. Hundreds of workers are losing their jobs. Gas prices are poised to surge. Supply is shrinking. Demand isn't. All because of a governor whose incompetence appears boundless. As if the situation couldn't deteriorate further, Phillips 66 just dropped a bombshell. They're shutting down their massive Los Angeles refinery by the end of this month, December. That's 139,000 barrels of fuel per day vanishing gone. In less than 1 year, California is losing nearly 20% of its capacity to produce gasoline. You can't simply replace that kind of production. You can't flip a switch and conjure new refineries. Before we examine why California is doing something so monumentally stupid it defies belief, we need to understand the regulatory nightmare Newsom has created. Under Gavin Newsom's leadership, California has enacted a draconian regime of energy policies that strangle the industry. The state's cap and trade program forces refineries to purchase expensive carbon emissions allowances, dramatically increasing production costs. California enforces a unique special gasoline blend mandate, supposedly to reduce pollution, which completely isolates the state from the national fuel market. Few refineries outside California can even produce this specialized blend, leading to higher prices and extreme vulnerability to supply shocks. Recently, Newsom signed legislation empowering the state to cap refinery profit margins and impose penalties for what the government deems excessive earnings. Yes, you heard that correctly. The state of California is now punishing companies for making too much money. This insanity has obviously discouraged investment and strangled industry growth, making matters exponentially worse. California exists as an isolated energy island. There are 0 pipelines connecting California refineries to those in Texas or Louisiana. Now, to be fair, this is not entirely Gavin Newsom's fault. There's something called the Jones Act, a federal maritime law that requires all goods transported by water between American ports to be carried on ships that are American-built, American-owned, and American-crewed. It's fundamentally a national security law. The Jones Act restricts foreign vessels from participating in domestic maritime commerce, which means California can't easily import gasoline from Texas refineries by ship because there simply aren't enough American flag vessels available to move fuel between domestic ports. By comparison, China currently has 1,800 ocean-going commercial ships under construction compared to the United States' 5. Yes, we are that catastrophically far behind. Thank you, Sleepy Joe. The extraordinary irony in this entire fiasco is what happens when these refineries close. Where exactly do you think California will be forced to obtain its fuel? The answer is so shockingly hypocritical. It's astonishing that even the most hardened, deranged, left-wing ideologues don't call it out. Can you say Saudi Arabia? Can you say South Korea? Can you say India? That's right. The state that claims to be saving the planet is now forcing massive oil tankers to burn enormous quantities of heavy fuel oil to ship gasoline halfway across the world. California has no choice. And did I mention it takes 4 weeks for those ships to arrive? Imagine if there's a storm or a war or a refinery fire in India. California's fuel supply dries up instantly. University of California economists are already predicting the gas prices will hit devastating new highs by next summer. Some economic models project $843 per gallon. Imagine filling up your tank for $160. Now, imagine you're a trucker or a delivery driver or a farmer trying to operate a business. This isn't just expensive, this is economic suicide. And if you live in Phoenix or Las Vegas and you're thinking you're safe because you're not in California, think again. This isn't California's problem alone. California refineries supply 88% of Nevada's gasoline and 33% of Arizona's fuel. When California sneezes, Arizona and Nevada catch pneumonia. Governors from both states, Republican and Democrat alike, have been desperately begging Gavin Newsom to stop this regulatory madness. All pleas have fallen on deaf ears. What we're witnessing here transcends simple energy mismanagement. We're observing the emergence of 2 distinct economies within our nation, and a vibrant, economically flourishing red state economy and a stagnant, contracting blue state economy. It's no coincidence that Chevron is abandoning California for Texas. Red states are experiencing explosive growth. There's been a 3-decade shift where Republican-controlled states have consistently outperformed Democratic strongholds across every key economic metric you can measure. First and foremost, we're seeing what many are calling the Great Lefty Migration. Between 2023 and 2024 alone, California lost nearly 250,000 residents. New York shed over 129,000 people. Illinois lost more than 56,000. By stark contrast, red states like Texas, Florida, Tennessee, and South Carolina are gaining residents by the hundreds of thousands during the same time period. And it's not just individual residents fleeing blue states. In 2024, Texas was the #1 destination for corporate headquarters relocations, while California lost the most companies. In terms of raw economic performance, red states like South Dakota, North Dakota, and Alabama consistently maintain the lowest unemployment rates in the nation, while blue states generally suffer higher unemployment. California has the single highest state unemployment rate in the entire country at nearly 6%. In terms of gross domestic product, the Southeast region, driven primarily by Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, and North Carolina, has reached $6.5 trillion in economic output, now surpassing the Northeast, which has historically been America's economic engine, led by New York City. This shift didn't happen overnight, and it certainly wasn't accidental. It was the result of decades of diverging policy choices that finally reached their breaking point. Low cost of living, low tax rates, corporate deregulation, and safe streets and neighborhoods have all contributed to a historic economic boom across red states, drawing millions of Americans and trillions in capital away from traditional blue strongholds. Meanwhile, high cost of living, confiscatory taxation, out-of-control regulation, and skyrocketing crime have caused blue states to implode from the inside out. Democratic governors in states like California and New York have raised taxes by billions of dollars, particularly during the Great Recession and the COVID-19 pandemic, while offering little in return beyond expanded bureaucracy and ideological virtue signaling. Republican leaders, by contrast, enacted historic tax cuts, streamlined permitting, reduced regulatory burdens, and eliminated strangling mandates, fueling unprecedented economic booms throughout the Southeast and Texas that continued to compound year after year. Chevron didn't leave California because they hate the beach or the weather. They left because they're a business, and businesses despise uncertainty above all else. They analyzed the regulatory environment. They assessed the government hostility. They calculated the long-term risk of operating under an administration that openly treats energy producers as enemies rather than partners. And they concluded they had to get out. Chevron was the canary in the coal mine. And that canary just died. Governor Newsom and the rest of California's political establishment are now stuck in the cave with very little oxygen left and very few options for escape. Newsom is scrambling now, desperately trying to salvage whatever remains of his political future by talking about price caps, anti-gouging penalties, and similar regulatory theatrics designed to look tough but solve nothing. But you can't legislate supply into existence out of thin air. The refineries are closing. The skilled workforce is leaving. The ships carrying foreign fuel are weeks away. And the prices are climbing relentlessly. California's progressive Democrats wanted a future without oil companies. Well, congratulations. You got exactly what you wished for. Now, good luck paying for it. The state that positioned itself as the leader in environmental policy has created an environmental catastrophe, forcing fuel to be shipped thousands of miles across oceans while dismantling its own energy independence. The state that claimed moral superiority on climate change is now completely dependent on foreign oil shipped on vessels burning the dirtiest fuel imaginable. The hypocrisy is staggering, and the consequences will be devastating for millions of Californians who never asked for this ideological crusade, but will be forced to pay the price at the pump every single day.